Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
They can do better than that. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you so much. Today's Impact Series workshop is the last, but I can tell you that it's not the least. Our guest today has a remarkable life story. I'll let him tell it. But from being incarcerated at 15 to being invited to the White House, working with John Legend, and having a TED Talk that has over 1.8 million views on the TED website. Without further ado, I want you to put your hands together as we welcome Marcus Bullock, founder of Flikshop.
What's up, y'all? All right, I'm super excited to be able to be here this morning. First of all, I don't know who. So who is this? Someone that pushes you, nudges you all to like sit in the first front rows? Is that a thing, or it's like you guys naturally just come in and sit in the first front rows?
No.
You're okay. I'm about to say this is weird. You know what I mean? Like I'm here for it. Like I love it. You know what I mean? Just so you know, I think that this should be a thing. I'm going to take this with me. Like, yo, make sure y'all consider, nudge people to get in the front row. There's the part of the talk where I want to give you the opportunity to give me your divided attention, and this is why I put the my handle on social. I mean, for my social up on the board. The reason why is because if I see you on your phone, I'm just going to naturally assume that you're taking pictures and you're posting about something that we're talking about here today. So if you're not, just act like that's what you're doing, because that's what I'm gonna be thinking you're doing. Also, shout out to the head nodders. The head nodders are the people who give me the energy up here. People who smile back at me. Thank you. Shout out to y'all. I'm super pumped to be here. One of the other things, because this is more like this talk is more conversational. I would prefer to have a dialogue versus a monologue. I could talk at you guys all day. Let me reassure you, for hours. I can just stand up here and just chop it up. You know what I mean? You can sit there and have fun and that. I promise you, I'm having the time of my life up here. But I think that the meat and potatoes comes from us having more of a conversation. So what I mean when I say that is, while I'm up here, listen, if there's a moment where you're like, hey, hold up, Marcus, run it back. I need you to spin the block back on this one thing. I'm more than happy to pause what I'm doing. We'll chop it up about that. Because what will end up happening is I'm going to go high level. I'm going to go 30,000 feet up, and then I'm going to intentionally pull a few threads. The reason why I'm going to intentionally pull a few threads inside of the 30,000 feet view from this story for this conversation is because there are going to be certain things that will matter more to you than they matter to me. There's certain things I think that are super important, right? But it may not be important to you. And I'm here as service, right? I'm not here to impress you, to make you think that I'm dope. I'm pretty dope. No, I'm kidding. But I'm not here to impress you in those things. I'm really here to be of service. And so if you aren't getting anything out of this conversation, then that means I didn't do my job well. Also, it means that I shouldn't have taken a late flight out of DC just to be able to make sure I can get here with you guys. So I want to make sure that we're leveraging our time the best possible way. So that's one of the other ground rules. In order to be able to guide the conversation, I'm going to, is the clicker, does that push down or up or?
It should be.
Oh wait, there's a Zoom. Are people online too?
Yeah, no, we are recording it.
Oh, okay. I want to say, all right, hold on. Let me shout out to y'all people. Oh, y'all recording me? Shout out to my future self. Yo, 2 hours from now, you're going to look back on the beginning of this video. You're like, yo, did you crush it? We'll find out later. I promise you I'm going to have the time of my life up here. No worries. I don't even want you to have to work that hard. Does the arrow keys work on the keyboard?
But I think this to be helpful. I think we can figure it out.
All right, cool. Well, while you work, I'm coming out here with y'all. Does the arrow key? Oh, now we work?
I got it.
Cool. I'll stay down here anyway. It's more comfortable. It felt like I'm like looking down. I'll stay down here anyway. All right. Oh, here's another thing. Real talk. So I use a lot of slang. So I could, I'm so that guy, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that could be the one who shows up to our board meetings, shows up to our meetings with some of our investors. And I could, talk about the overutilization of our marketing materials that allows us to be able to drive traffic, probably produces a 20% increase month over month in revenue that allows us to be able to drive. I could do all those things. I don't even enter board meetings like that. I'm like, yo, look, check this out. We got a couple posts on Instagram, they doing numbers. Numbers is doing, allowed us to catch that bag. Mind you, my investors be like, catch that bag? Did you know what he meant when he said catch the bag? You don't know? Okay, we'll wait till the next question. And it's awkward, like, when you say catch that bag, I'm like, oh, no, I'm a bag. So because of my slang, if there's a moment, if y'all like my investors, please pause me, because I'm like, oh, my bad, I use slang a lot. And one of the reasons that I do that, you'll see as I go down inside of the talk.
This thing is using.
Still no? Cool, no worries. Don't even stop. You don't, we entrepreneurs over here. All right. So in order to be able to, the arrow keys on with you. All right, let's see the mouse work. One of them works.
This one.
This one?
This is old back. Yeah.
All right, cool. Damn, there we go. Now I got it. All right.
You go bottom one.
Oh, the bottom one? All right.
Yes, sir. It works.
What was I doing wrong? All right. All right. So in order to be able to guide the conversation, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make sure that I stay on topic by running these three main topics down. So a few things I want to talk about in this talk. The first thing I'm going to talk about is how I leverage resilience in order to be able to get here. There's a reason why someone sent me an email, shout out to James. There's a reason why somebody sent me an email and was like, yo, we want you to pull up on us over at the Watson Institute to talk to some of our students. And a lot of that is centered in my resiliency. So we're going to talk a bit about that and how I want you guys to also find ways to leverage your own moments of resiliency or tenaciousness in order to be able to accomplish your goals. One of the other things we want to talk about is the value of storytelling. There's something intrinsically important for me about this, but I'm learning as I continue to grow inside of the Marcus Bullock brand, as well as the Flikshop brand, the power of leveraging storytelling in order to be able to continue to build that brand and to develop my market based off how I see fit. And the final thing I want to talk about is how we leverage authenticity and being the connector in order to be able to accomplish the things that we've done, at least thus far. These, I like to call them my 3 key ingredients to success. If I do my thing in my company, then I would have leveraged these 3 things so well that it doesn't matter if I'm selling this clicker or if I'm selling the idea or the service or the food truck or whatever the thing is. These 3 things can allow for me to be able to build what it is that I'm building to go toward my goals. All right, so let's jump straight in and let's give a little bit of background to who I am and how I got here. And I think that will at least set a precedence to be able to allow us to be able to have a real meaningful conversation. This picture that's on the wall, this one was taken about 3 weeks before my 15th birthday. I was a sophomore in high school. I was going to a high school called Suitland High School in Suitland, Maryland, right outside of Washington, D.C. in Prince George's County. I was a pretty good student. I was a basketball player. I played basketball on our basketball team. We were a state championship team, and I had just got bumped up to varsity during my sophomore year. And I don't know if any of y'all play sports, but if you got bumped up to varsity on sophomore year, on the state championship team, that means, you were pretty decent. And I was. I like to think I was. At least that's what I tell my son that plays basketball now that thinks he can beat me. He can't beat me. If he does, he tries to foul the crap out of him. I'm like, yo, dude, you'll never beat me. I'm so that dad. It's so, don't judge me. The people in this photo, this is my mom, my sister, and the cute little baby, that's my niece. You guys that sit in the front row, I know I'm blocking you. Can you see that picture back there? Yeah. Okay, cool. This picture was also taken a few weeks before I made one of the worst decisions of my life. My best friend and I, during my sophomore year and his junior year, we went to high school together, we played in the same basketball team. We decided that we were going to make a horrible decision, and we carjacked a man in the shopping mall parking lot. We drive to the mall in Northern Virginia, maybe about 20 minutes away from our home. We're walking around the mall, we leave the mall. It's an interesting thing happens. I don't know why we decided to make this decision, but living in the DC area during that time, it was interesting. Growing up, like people stole cars all the time. I just lived in that kind of neighborhood. Some of you guys probably either may have also met or knew people or lived or visited those kinds of neighborhoods, but whatever that you think of when you think of like bad neighborhood DC, whatever you see in your mind, maybe a little bit worse is where I live. In fact, my mom, she worked for the federal government. She worked for the Food and Drug Administration. And while she was a federal employee, wanted to be able to make sure that she would groom my sister and I to not become a part of what it is that we saw outside of our front door. She was always intentional about ensuring that we knew the value of education. Continued education, post-secondary education, keep going. She even would she would eventually, after work, she would enroll in a program at Trinity College where she wanted to continue her education to be able to help kind of sort of model what it looked like for us as high school students to be able to go back to go to school after we graduated. It was interesting. Me and my sister didn't want that. We didn't want it. We didn't want it. My mother drove an escort to work every day. Like she worked hard, and the dudes who was standing outside our front door in my apartment building, like my man Big Mike, he'd be out front with the big boy Benz, with all the girls outside, standing in front of him. He got go-go music on loud, smoking weed in front of the car. All the girls like, oh Mike. I wanted to be like Mike. And not Jordan, but that Mike out front of my front door. Definitely not like my mom. In my world, Mike had it figured out. My mom, I don't know what she was doing. Your escort, matter of fact, on your path, your driver's side door of the Ford Escort that you're driving, it's not even functional. We can't even get in the car on the driver's side. We got to climb through the passenger side, climb over. Every day as a 13, 14-year-old kid. I knew he was doing something he probably shouldn't have been doing, but it didn't matter because a lot of people around my neighborhood did that. There was this blurred line where no one looked at you as a bad person if you stood in a corner and did whatever happened on those corners. No one judged you. No one said repudiated. No one loathed walking out front and saying this because this was the part of the normal life that we all lived. Even the people like my mom and go to work every morning. She would see Big Mike out there. She will wave. Big Mike would see her, and if she come home with groceries, he would go help her with the groceries. He was a good guy. I wanted to be like him. One day I pulled up on Big Mike, and I was like, yo, hey, Mike, put me in the game, coach. And he was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, nah, put me in the game. I mean, you doing all the things. You got the bands out here. You doing things. I want to be like you, Mike. And he was like, nah, man, you need to go back to school, bro. Don't you play ball? Don't you do these things? I'm like, nah, man, but look, I'm trying to get the money, that I can do the things, and I can get the Jordans, and then all the girls will like me. I don't know why, but in high school, that was just my thing. If it wasn't about girls, it wasn't about nothing else. Like, everything I did was about girls. Like, everything I did was for girls. And eventually I would get put on. He would put an 8-ball of crack in my hand, and I would buy it for $125. I would immediately go back to my house, to my apartment. I'll go get the razor blade that my mom would use to be able to sew garments. I would go in my bedroom, lock the door, cut the lights off instead of the one in the corner, and I would start cutting up the crack of that 8-ball on my dresser. And while I was cutting these little small stones, because he would direct me and tell me, like, this stone and this size, you can sell it for $10. This stone and this size, you can sell it for $20. This stone and this size, you can sell it for $50. And I would go outside and I would come back as a 13-year-old kid with $300. Couldn't believe that I made that much money. And I couldn't believe that I could go to the mall the next day and go buy those joints. I was addicted immediately. It's interesting because I wasn't a drug consumer, but I was also addicted, just like the people who I was selling drugs to. I was addicted to the money. I was addicted to life. I was addicted to the girls that eventually did like me because I did have all of the Jordans. I was addicted to the attention I would get from all the people around the neighborhood. I was addicted. And eventually, one night, I found myself in a very interesting position. I found myself in a very interesting position. I was walking down the street around my neighborhood, and these guys were driving down the street, and they rolled down the window, and they pulled a gun out, and they told me to get in the back of their car. When they told me to get in the back of their car, I had just came back from a church service. I got a suit, a full suit on. And they had guns in my face. I'm sitting in the back of the car. I'm 13 years old. And I had just jumped off the porch and I'm hanging out with Mike. And the first thing that these people with the guns tell me is like, yo, take us back to your crib and tell us where the safe is. And they tell me, I'm like, hold up, pause, time out, flag on the play. I don't got no safe. What y'all talking about? How do you know? What are you talking about? And they was like, it's nah, look, we know you got the money. We know you got the drugs. Take us back to where the safe is. And I'm like, I don't have that. Now, mind you, at this moment, I'm a kid, right? I am boo-hoo crying. Like, water's coming down my face. Like, right, really, like, getting to a nasty, ugly cry. You know what I mean? And eventually, they drove me around for hours. They were trying to convince me to take them back to my house. Eventually, I was like, I got in my head, I knew I was going to die. Because I heard them in the front seat talking about how they want to have to bury me, how they want to shoot me here, take me to these woods, dig the hole, all the things. And I'm sitting in the back seat like, yo, I'm about to die. And they're like, yo, take us back to the crib where your mom is and you know where the safe is. And in my head, I'm thinking like, I can't take it back to my house because I'm going to die. That means they're going to kill my mom, they're going to kill my sister, the baby, my niece on the screen. And I'm like, nah, Joe, like I can't, I'm not, in my mind, I'm sitting in the back seat like making it a real decision, like either I save myself or save my family. And so I opted to save myself. Eventually, they pulled over and they're like, yo, if we drop you off, you've never seen us before, right? Wait, what? Nah, never seen you before. Like, yo, I got everything. I don't know what you look like. Wait, dude, I don't know. Right? They let me out. I run home. And that night was the night that I promised myself that I would never get caught without a gun ever again. I told myself, like, yo, you can't live in this neighborhood walking around in these streets and not have a gun because everybody around the neighborhood has a gun. How are you going to protect yourself? And what happens next time if they don't let you go? That same gun that I had gotten that a few days later would be the gun that I would use a couple of years later in that shopping mall parking lot when I would commit that carjacking. You know what's interesting is that I never realized that it didn't dawn on me until much later that people who actually get guns typically, eventually, at some point, use them. Mind blowing to me. And I used mine in a very instant way. It was a horrible decision. We see the guy sleeping in the car in the shopping mall parking lot. Me and my boy, we tap on the window with the gun. He wakes up startled and confused. We make him get out of the car. We jump in the driver in the passenger side of the car. He's standing in the parking lot. We speed off down 95 and we're on our way home. I would never realize that that decision I made that night would be the one that would change everything for my life. There was a series of bad decisions that I would make over the years, leading from that time that I got kidnapped and I ended up getting that gun until the time that we ended up committing that carjacking. But what people that commit crimes don't realize is that you can get away with 100 of them, you get caught for one, and it's all over. In fact, that next day after the carjacking, we had a brilliant idea because we had gotten away. We had gotten away that night. It was a Saturday night. We got home. The next morning, my friend would tell me that he saw that on the news that they were talking about that carjacking that happened the night before. And we got immediately nervous. It's like, yo, oh, snap, now this is different because we stole a car from a shopping mall parking lot in a neighborhood where they actually care about crimes being committed versus like in my neighborhood where you don't really get that kind of reporting that somebody steals a car. If somebody steals a car around my neighborhood, it's par for the course. That never ends up on the news. It's just what it is, right? But in this specific neighborhood where this mall was, yeah, they reporting this kind of stuff. This is crime. And they want to be tough on criminals. We knew that we had made a horrible decision and we was like, oh, snap, this ain't normal. This made the news. We had to get rid of that car. This was our brilliant brain. This is what our brilliant brains told us, our 15 and 16-year-old brains. This is what he said. They said, hey, look, y'all should get rid of the cop. This is what our brains told us. Y'all should get rid of the cop. We say, okay, Marcus, get rid of the cop. Marcus, okay, cool. Marcus, you know what you should do? You should go shopping. Go shopping. You should go use the credit cards that you found from the man from last night and go shopping in the mall with his credit cards. This is what I tell myself in my smart, brilliant 15-year-old brain. We take the car. The plan was the car that we stole, we want to drive it back to Virginia, park it in a no parking zone. Because in our minds, like, yo, if we park in a no parking zone, it's going to get towed. Dude to get his car back. No harm, no foul. Everybody made it. Everybody's cool. Sunday morning, we'll go shopping at the mall. I'll make it back to Sunday school at church before my mom even realized what had happened. We get to the mall, we take man's credit cards, and we go on shopping. And we going into every store. I mean, we running it up. I mean, I'm talking about we swiping this joint. We running it up in this car. We go through we at every store, Eddie Bauer, Abercrombie & Fitch, Earl Foster. I'm dating myself because I'm talking about the store. We in Foot Locker, we in all these stores. We in all these stores and we running it up. And I'm talking about when I say I'm swiping, like we like Dora the Explorer swiping, those swiping, right? and so that's not happy Father's Day. We running up, and it's crazy because when we're running through the mall, we walking through with the bags. You know, we got the plan, the master plan. The cars out there is gonna get towed. We got the bags. We're gonna make it back. We're gonna catch the train, the subway back to church. Moms is gonna be like, "Where you been?" I'm like, "I was singing the choir. Everything is good." You know what I mean? Y'all don't judge me. I was a preacher's kid. And so when we get to the last store, it was a Macy's. We get to the Macy's, and now we done ran it up so much, we're wondering, like, yo, if this is even real, this dude must got a lot of money in his car. In fact, we're even surprised that when we get to the final register, the lady at the Macy's is like, yo, this card looks a little suspect. Y'all got this American Express. Is this your card? And I'm, yes, this is my card. And she's looking at the card. She's looking at me. She's looking at the card. She's looking at me. And she's like, Mr. Wojciechowski? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. She's like, yeah, something tells you that your last name is Wojciechowski. And she calls it in. I'm thinking she's calling in to find out if he got money in the car. Now, mind you, we done just ran up through the whole mall, so I know he got money in the car. I'm like, yeah, go call that Joan in. Let's see how it goes. They call it in, and we see the security guys coming. When we see the security guys coming, my boy, he looks at me like, hey, Slim, you think they coming for us? I'm like, no, we good. Go ahead. We're good. I'm Mr. Wojciechowski. Keep going. Yeah. Security guy gets closer and closer. That's when we realize, like, oh, snap. Dude might be for us. So I look at my boy. He look at me. I look at him. He look at me. I'm like, yo, we should probably boogie. He like, I think we should boogie. We got our bags. We drop them down. Boom. We got. We run out of the Macy's, we run around this shopping garage, shopping mall, we run across the street, some apartment, some office buildings, we run around them, we jumping over fences, running over cars. Mind you, I just got bumped up to varsity on my basketball team. This security guard is chasing us, he don't want no smoke. Stop it, bro. Why are you even running? I run 60 laps after practice. You ain't catching us. We gone. Me and my boy, we out. We don't even see him no more. We gone. We thinking we got away. We run across the highway, we run across another busy highway, and that's when we hear, like, oh, it's the helicopters. When we see the helicopters, we're like, yo, we probably can't outrun the choppers. We should probably get our story straight now. We get into a parking lot, and we're running to, we see an office building. We're like, yo, let's run into the office building and see if they got a train station underneath this office building, because that happens often in DC. It's a train station close. We'll hop on the train and we can hurry to get away from the police. We run toward the office building because we're running from this big, the mall is across the street, Pentagon City Mall is across the street. We run from Pentagon City Mall, and when we get to the office building, we didn't realize that we were running from the police from Pentagon City Mall and ended up at the actual Pentagon building. Oh, exactly. So we're running from the police to the police. We get to the Pentagon building, and that's when they surround us, they grab us, slam us on the ground, put the handcuffs on, and that begins the part of the journey. I was 15 years old. It was a Sunday morning, and I honestly wanted to, I didn't. They're like, yo, I honestly wanted to figure out how to not get out of the handcuffs. My honest thing the problem that I wanted to solve for at that moment was how to prevent my mom from finding out that I just got arrested for this thing. I wasn't scared of the police. I wasn't scared of the prosecutors. I wasn't scared of any of the people. I wasn't scared of even when they arrested us and they took us to the detention center. I wasn't scared of any of those. These are the same people that's outside of my front block. These are the same people who I'm around every day. I'm not nervous about any of these things. I'm more scared of my mom. If my mom found out that I just got arrested, like, yo, this is going to be a whole thing. I'm going to get punished. She's going to take all the things. Mind you, the last thing I should be worried about is getting punished. I just got arrested for a carjacking. I'm worried. I'm scared to death of my mother. I'm not scared of any of these people. Eventually, I called my mom, and my mom is like, Marcus, how are you? How are you doing? And it didn't dawn on me that my mom would be less concerned about what was going on and more concerned about my well-being. It was an instant time in our relationship because she went from immediately, almost overnight, from being the caregiver, the person who loves on me and provides and does all the things, to now trying to figure out how to be my friend and nurture me through this very instant time in my life. In fact, I will go on through the court proceedings, and they would eventually certify me as an adult. They told me that now, because of the crime that I committed, this wasn't a juvenile crime. This was an adult crime, and they're going to treat me like one. They moved me out of a juvenile detention center. They moved me out to county jail. And I was then, at that point, the youngest person that had ever seen Fairfax County Jail. I was eventually sentenced after going to a bunch of court proceedings, and I will be sentenced for that crime that I committed at that shopping mall to 8 years in adult maximum security prisons. I will go on to spend the next several days and weeks just trying to navigate what that even meant. And even though I heard a judge, when a judge sentenced me to the 8 years, I promise y'all this will end up happening. I ended up asking the judge at my sentencing. I paused court. I said, Your Honor, I have a question I want to ask. I want to talk to you about this something. And he looks at me. He's like, young man, go ahead, please stand up and ask your question. So I stand up. I'm like, Your Honor, I know we're dealing with this carjacking thing, and I'm so sorry that I committed this crime. But I just got bumped up to varsity on our basketball team. And we about to play Sherwood in the state championships. Look, I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and go back, play Sherwood, we'll win, and then we'll come back and we'll revisit this whole carjacking thing later. The judge looks at me in utter confusion, and he's like, young man, clearly you don't understand the magnitude of what's happening here today. So I'm going to send you, remand you back to the custody of the sheriff, send you back to the holding cell, and I'll allow for your lawyer to explain to you what's going on. My 15-year-old brain was like, all right, best, say less. I ain't tripping. I'm about to go back to the block. I'll go back and go play some Uno, play some checkers on the pod. I ain't tripping, you know what I mean? Like, my mom would have talked to the prosecutor and somebody to figure out how to get me out of this situation. There's no way that I'm going to get, like, my girlfriend, Tamika, just promised that she was going to buy me a Kenneth Cole t-shirt that I was going to wear after winter break. And I had to go kill him. I'm trying to go to homecoming. I want to be the homecoming prince. There's no way that that a judge is going to keep me with this. They would transfer me from that jail to a prison because now my sentence was too long to spend inside of a local county jail. I would get to the prison, and even then, I still lived in this denial, believing that my mom was going to save me out of this horrible situation. I would spend my 16th birthday inside of a prison. I would spend my 17th birthday inside of a prison. It wouldn't be until a couple of years later that I will meet my boy, Danny B. And Danny B, he in his mid-50s. Here's the thing. Prison is one of the only places you can be like 17 and one of your best friends in their mid-50s. And I'm walking around the rec yard with Danny B, and I asked him, I'm like, yo, Danny B, how long have you been here? Because I've been here for 2 years now. I'm a vet. This is what I do. I do this prison thing. This is what I do. I already got my honey buns in there. I got my sodas. This is what I do. I can help you out. And what did you possibly do at 50-something years old where they will arrest you and put you on this out of a prison? What could you have possibly done? And Danny B looks at me, he's like, Marcus, I've been here for 31 years. When Danny B tells me that he's been there for 31 years, yo, we're walking around the prison rec yard, and my knees immediately just start doing like the little fucking move. My hands start getting sweaty, my heart drops down to my toes, because that's when I realized that if they would make a man serve 31 years, they ain't got no problem with making me serve all 8 of mine. Eventually, I sunk into the world's worst depression. This immediately went from me being a playful dude in a rec yard to this now becoming the hardest time of my life. I have to grapple with all of my friends who I'm calling home, and they graduated from high school. They living their lives in a very meaningful and interesting way. All the things that I dreamt about, they're all gone. And this will be the next family photo that I will take with my mom. But instead of it being on some type of campus, it was in a prison visiting her. Don't let the waterfalls and all that stuff fool you in the background. This was horrible time. In fact, those cold clanking doors that shut at 9 p.m. every night will make you grow up fast. And it will turn a playful kid that had aspirations of going to school and playing D1 basketball to now somebody who's legit praying on a rec yard for God to just save him from all of the catastrophe that he was seeing. I would look outside of my window, out of those sealed doors, and I would see the black body bags being walked down the prison rec yard. And because Richmond, the city of Richmond, Virginia, was beefing with the dudes from DC, I knew that I could potentially even be next one of those body bags, those bodies that would be in one of those bags. In fact, when I first got to the prison where I took this photo at Brownsville Correctional Center, when I got to the cell with my cell partner who was there serving a life plus 43-year sentence, the first thing he would tell me, he was like, yo, hey, Marcus, check this out. You from DC, right? Before you go outside on that rec yard, I need you to take this coat and put it on. And I'm looking at him like, dude, it's the middle of August. I'm not putting no coat on. You tripping, it's blazing outside. And I'm in Southern Virginia. I don't know if you've been, but y'all down here, so y'all deep south down here. You can see the heat waves going through the air. This was wild. I'm from DC. We don't see this. You can see the cinder block wall sweat. Anybody ever seen wall sweat? This was wild. I'd never seen anything like this. It's the middle of August. He's like, tell me, put this coat on. He's like, Marcus, before you put the coat on, make sure you slit the inside of the coat and run magazines around the inside lining. So that way, because you beefing with Richmond, mind you, I just got to the prison. I ain't beefing with nobody. But because I'm from DC, now I'm beefing with Richmond. The guys from Richmond, if they catch you in that breezeway where there's no cameras, no COs, somebody might try to stab you on your side. And if they try to kill you, you might end up in one of those body bags, so you might want to take that coat on, put that coat in the liner with the magazines. This was my entrance into the next several years of my life, where I am now fighting literally for my life every day. I will go on. I would spend my 16th, 17th birthdays, but I will also spend my 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd birthdays, all growing up in some of the worst prisons in the state of Virginia. I promise you, I thought that I was going to die in prison. I knew I was going to die in prison. In fact, I remember calling home one day and I tell my mom, I'm calling home collect. I tell my mom, I'm like, hey mom, check this out. I'm so sorry I did this. I stole that car from that man. It was a horrible decision. I made the decision, but I don't even want you to have to go through this with me any longer. In fact, Mom, I'm probably not going to make it out of this situation. So I want you to start grieving for me now. I'm probably going to die in here. Or I'm going to end up killing somebody in here to protect myself, which means I'm going to get an additional 25 years. Either way, you won't ever see me again. And I'm so, so sorry for this, Mom. In fact, don't ever come and visit me anymore. I'm never going to call you again. I'm never going to write you again. Don't write me anymore. If you start grieving for me now, when the correctional center calls you and tells you you have to spend the $500 for my body so that I can have a proper burial, you won't begin the grieving process then. You would have already been mentally and psychologically prepared to know that your son has already died and you can let me go. I'm so sorry, Mom. I love you so much. I'm sorry that I did this to you. I hang up the phone. I hang up the phone and I tell my mom this, and this is a Thursday. They called me for a visit that Saturday. They called me for a visit, and I'm like, yo, who in the world's come to visit me? Because no one comes to visit me, because the prison where I'm housed in is 4 hours away from DC. And the visits are only 1 hour. So if someone comes to visit me, they have to drive 4 hours to come sit with me for 1 hour to drive 4 hours back. And I'm 17 years old. None of my friends coming to do that. So who's coming to visit me? I go walk in the visiting room. And of course, you know who's sitting at my table? My mom. She's sitting at the table and I'm looking at her and I'm like, lady, what are you doing here? I know we had the conversation because I was there when we had the conversation. And she's like, Marcus, calm down, just have a seat. And I'm like, Mom, why are you? She's like, Marcus, just have a seat. Just calm down, have a seat. And I'm sitting in the visiting room. I sit down, and she looks at me in my eyes, and she's like, Marcus, don't you ever in your life call me with no foolishness like this again. Boy, I'm your mother. I will slap you upside your head. I mess around being here with you. You ever call me with this foolishness ever again. There's nothing that you can do to out-criminalize my love for you. You are my son, and no matter what, until the day that I die or you die, I will be there right beside you. Marcus, I love you. And I'm like, Mom, but you don't understand. Your life and my life is different now. I don't want you to keep going through this, Mom. This is horrible. The fact that you got to come through those doors over there, you're getting patted down. They running their hands all up underneath your bra. They patting you, putting all your hands all in your pants. Like, I don't want this for you, Mom. I don't want you to feel disrespected by these correctional officers that teach you like trash just because of your son who's locked up in here that they also treat like trash. And in fact, Mom, you coming in here with this foolishness about you love me and all this. She's like, Marcus, shut up. You are my son, and I'm going to be here with you until, matter of fact, Marcus, I'm going to make a promise to you today in this prison visitor room. I'm going to either write you a letter or send you a picture every day from this day forward until you come home, because I actually want you to see that there's life on the other side of this prison sentence. I want you to see there's something on the other side of this opportunity that you have. There's life on the other side, and I need you to know it, Marcus. Those barbed wire fences and electrical fences and all the things that separate you and I are not enough to be able to break our bond, our love. And I want to make sure that I'm here to prove it to you. I'm looking at her and I'm like, so wait a minute. So you think that because you about to send me some pictures or write me a letter, that's going to change anything? Because, Mom, when you walk out of those double doors right there, you're going to get in your car, you're going to roll your window down, you're going to have the wind blowing through your hair, you're going to listen to your favorite song, and you're going to be living life. When I go through those double doors right there, that correctional officer that's standing right there, the very first thing he's going to tell me to do is squat and cough. I'm going to have to strip butt naked, and he's going to be wondering whether or not you slipped me some drugs inside his visitor room. That's the different life. That's the juxtaposition of the worlds that we live in, Mom. I need you to understand this. And she's like, Marcus, you can't stop me. There's nothing you can do. I'm going to write you a letter. I'm going to send you a picture every day until you come home, because you need to see that there's life waiting for you. I leave this in the room. I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever. Next couple of days, they start calling my name for mail. So here's the interesting thing in prison. See, mail call is the one moment in prison, in jail, where at 4 p.m. every day, I don't care what city, state, or locale you're in, there's a shift change where correctional officers from the morning shift leave, and then in the evening, correctional officers come in. And during that time is when they pass out mail. That's the thing that signals to you and everybody else in your housing unit that somebody on the streets cares about you. Somebody's thinking about you when they call your name for mail. There's no easy emailing in prison. There's no social media. There's no text messaging. Think about the amount of texts that you sent today, and it's only 10:30. Think about the amount of emails you sent just over this week, and the week isn't even done yet. The amount of people that are missing out on those connections are in the millions. In fact, it's 2.3 million of them that are locked up in jails and prisons all around the country, and they don't have the connection back to their family members in interesting ways. So my mom, she was the new person bringing new content in prison. I tell people my mom was like Instagram before it was Instagram. My mom would be, interestingly enough, taking pictures of the wildest things. I mean, today is kind of normal, but my mom was taking pictures of food back in the day, y'all. She would be at her desk and she would use one of these one-time use 24 exposure kind of sort of cameras that you can buy like a Walgreens or something. Then you like take the whole camera to Walgreens and they develop it. They give you prints back and then you can use those prints somehow. And my mom, she would go and she would buy these 24 exposure cameras and she would take a picture of a piece at work. She'll take a picture of the new wallpaper. She'll take a picture of the new friends at the job. And she would write me a long 4-page letter. Marcus, one day you're going to enjoy your slice of pizza when you come home. Marcus, one day you're going to enjoy black olives on the pizza when you come home. Who in the world likes black olives anyway? She would walk through a mall in a department store. She'd take a picture of a piece of furniture. 4-page letter. Marcus, one day you're going to enjoy a pillow top mattress when you come home. And she would write me these letters. In fact, my friends, they would begin living vicariously through my mother's letters. And now they're like, oh, so what happened with your mom with this? My mom would send me pictures of like my niece and nephews, like eating funnel cake or something at an amusement park. And it's wild when you get pictures of the wildest things in prison, because now I'm showing my friends like, yo, look at my niece, she's scared to death. You know, she's about to get this roller coaster while she eat a funnel cake. And that sparks a whole conversation because it's somebody in the day room. It's like, oh, funnel cake. Y'all remember funnel cake? Oh my God, you put the strawberries and the powdered sugar. It's a whole nother person. Yo, now you gotta put the chocolate on it. There's a whole nother random person in the background. Nah, you gotta have the funnel cake with the apricot. Mind you, I'm in like, bro, you've been here for 25 years. When's the last time you had apricot? You ain't had no apricot. You don't even know what it tastes like no more. Stop. This, my mom would bring all this new fresh content in. And the first time that my mom realized I was sharing my pictures with my friends, we would be sitting in the prison visiting room, and you know, people would be walking the visiting room like, hey, Miss Bullock. And my mom like, oh my God, how do you know me? I don't know if I here with you. Why do you know me? And I'm like, nah, Ma, you know what I mean? You did, you know, you send me pictures, that's my man, so and so. They're like, hey, Miss Bullock, did you get your washer and dryer fixed? Marcus, how do you know about my washer and dryer? I'm like, Ma, you send me the pictures. One dude told me he used to work for Maytag. Another guy was arguing about Kimmel was better. It was a whole thing in the day. Just go with it. Okay, yeah, I'm working. It was a lint trap issue. My mom would see that I'm developing these relationships, and she would continue to send me these photos, and I would go on from Bronzeville Correctional Center to Lawrenceville Correctional Center to Greensville Correctional Center to St. Bride's Correctional Center to Coffeewood Correctional Center, before finally they would call my name one day, and that's a real moment when they would say, Bullock, you're getting released today. I couldn't believe that like this was happening. In fact, for years, my mom would practice the empathy that will allow for me to be able to feel with her through these visiting room visits, through all of these moments that we would share together, and all of what we dreamt about was finally coming true. Holy crap, they opened them, popped them doors. It was wild when they popped the doors, because when you walk through one door, they got to close one door, you got to stand there, wait for them to close before they open another door, you know, blah, blah. My mom is on the other side of the double doors, and I had never been close to those double doors, because before you get those double doors, it's a red line in front of those double doors. And if any person with an inmate number crosses that red line, that person in that tower, they got a hat where they put it in your butt. So don't cross that red line. They popped the doors for me. I'm standing at the red line like Pavlov's dog. I ain't moving. I'm scared to death to move, right? And the correctional officer's looking at me like, dude, do you want to go home? My bad, let me run through the door. I run through the door, and I'm trying to be all tough. For years, I've been practicing toughness and mastering testosterone. And my mom is sitting on the other side of the door, and she's like, and she's trying to keep it all together. And my sister, she's standing there beside her, and she's trying to keep it all together. I'm walking through the double doors, and I'm trying to keep it all together. By the time they finally close the other door, I'm falling into my mother's arms. We both doing ugly cry. We both sit there crying like hysterically. Meanwhile, the correctional officer's in the booth like, are y'all gonna get out the double doors? Did you want to stay here? Or... I'm like, my bad, get me out this door ASAP. I get into the car, and I couldn't believe that this moment was real. In fact, the whole world had changed while I was in prison. It was interesting because when I first get in the car and we pull off in the prison, the very first thing that I see that I had never seen before, when we go through a stoplight, there was a flash that was happening in the light. And I'm looking at my mom like, yo, are they watching this? What's going on? What's happening? The prison still watching me? How do they do this? And she's like, no, it's a camera light. I'm like, yo, they got cameras and the lights now? Oh, everybody going to jail. Everybody going to jail. The entire world had changed. In fact, when I went to prison, there was no internet. I came home, there was Google. The whole world had changed. It was wild, and I had no idea how to be able to have this reentry moment that could be centered around success. But I knew that the plan would be to be able to try to find out how to get a job. I'm like, if I could figure out how to get a job, I could practice my way to creating dignity. I could create some humanity. I could prove to my mom, the community, my church, my friends, to myself, that I could actually do it. I could come home and I could win. I meant something to this world. So I went out on my job hunt. I'm super pressed, y'all. I'm so excited. Mind you, I haven't even spoken to someone of the opposite sex of almost like a decade. So everywhere I go, I'm the most happy-go-lucky person that you would ever meet. I couldn't believe that I could just walk through the mall freely and no one's asking me where I was going. I felt awkward every time I would see a police officer. I'm like, oh my God, does he know? Does he know? In fact, I remember the first time I went to the self-checkout lane, because I had never experienced self-checkout at the grocery store. And I go to the self-checkout and I'm swiping and all this stuff is coming up on the screen. And I'm like, yo, do they know I've been to prison? How are they not letting me know I can pay? How do they? Everywhere I went, I thought that people just knew that I had been to prison, and it hung on my shoulder. In fact, even when I would go apply for jobs, like I felt like they knew, because every job application would ask the same magical question, preventing me from having any real opportunities. Have you ever been convicted of a felony? I had to answer that question honestly and check yes, and it was horrible because it would be 41 people that would tell me no as a result of it. I'm talking about as soon as I would check that box, it was like they came out the background like scram. Michael Jackson, beat it. You knew good as well that you wasn't gonna get a job here. Stop it. Did you know? Did you have a contract on your record? Yes, ma'am. I knew I had a contract. It wouldn't be to the 42nd job application that would ask me the same question, but an interesting way. They would ask me, have you been convicted of a felony, comma, within the last 7 years? Now, I just served 8 years inside of prison. So I was able to honestly answer, no, I have not been convicted of a felony within the last 7 years, because mine was 8 years ago. And it was my first opportunity to get a job at a paint store. I love that job so much. I was just so grateful just to get out of my mom's house, to be honest. I don't know if it was the actual mixing of the dyes inside of the paint that produced the midnight sparkle blue that would sell to a customer, or it was the fact that I could just have somewhere to go where people would ask me questions and it seemed that I was able to add value. People ask me a simple question. So Marcus, how many gallons do I need about this? I'm like, gallons of what? Of paint? I don't know. I ain't never sold paint before. I don't know between interior paint and exterior paint. I'm just happy I got a job. What do you do for a living? And I'm like having real conversations. Mind you, my team members is like, bro, you're not supposed to be asking the customers questions. You're supposed to be selling the paint, bro. And I'm like, oh, my bad. But you don't realize I haven't had real meaningful conversations with people in a long time. So when Ms. Johnson would come in and she would be like, hey, Marcus, I want to buy 2 gallons of Midnight Blue. I'm like, hold up, Ms. Johnson. So wait a minute. So you buying Midnight Blue? So this for your kitchen. Really? So do you cook in your kitchen? So do you make fettuccine Alfredo? I love fettuccine Alfredo. Do you use mozzarella or Parmesan? How does it work? Meanwhile, my team members in the back are like, bruh, sell the paint, bruh. Bruh, sell the paint. You're doing too much. You're doing too much. Why you gotta have conversations with every customer? Just sell the paint. And I'm so happy-go-lucky. I can't wait to be able to have a conversation with the next customer, the next customer, the next customer. I didn't even realize that I was building a new brand. The brand that I was intentional about building in prison was not the same brand that I wanted to be intentional about building inside of this paint store, because I had a very new opportunity. You see, it's interesting when you go from one environment to the next. Whatever brand that you're building for yourself right now today, the moment that you graduate out of this program, you can legit change the entire image and that brand and that perception of what the community has for you, just in how you show up. And I didn't realize that's what I was doing when I was at that paint store. I was no longer Marcus Bullock, the one they used to call Smoke, the one that had an inmate number 247384. I was now a contributing member back into my community, and I'm selling paint. In fact, I was so happy-go-lucky that the customers that come to the paint store, they're like, yo, bro, you way too excited to sell paint. How much do you charge to paint kitchens? I'm like, well, Miss Johnson, we don't paint kitchens. I'm about to say this Midnight Blue, so you paint your own kitchen. The painters will come into the store, and this is like a recession was happening, housing crisis is pending, all this stuff happening, and they're nervous about losing out on work. And I couldn't understand how they couldn't make that connection back to the people that come to the paint store every day and asking me, how much do I charge to paint kitchens? A light bulb goes off, and I'm like, yo, I could be the broker for these. I can be the conduit between the Ms. Johnsons of the world and the painters of the world. And I started my very first company after prison called Perspectives Painting Contractors. I'll be that guy that said, hey, look, Ms. Johnson, if the kitchen market price, the painted kitchen is $500, I'm going to the painter like, yo, bro, can you paint that junk for me for $450? Because if you can paint it for me for $450, I know it's $50 below market, but promise you, you can plug my number in your phone as money bag emojis. We ain't friends. If I call you, this is about a bag, bro. So moonlight for me, work on your daytime job and come make $400 or $500 every night work for me because I'm a plug and I could be the one to connect you to the Miss Johnsons. The painters were all over. They're like, say all the way, let's bet. I could make $400 or $500 every day messing around with you, Marcus. Cool beans. All the painters in the DC area now are eventually at some point now hearing about this new hustle that I got at the paint store, and every painter in these areas kind of come up to the paint store on 14th and Clifton because the word got out really quickly that Marcus is the person to go moonlight for. In fact, the painters will come to the paint store and the 5 or 6 other team members that were also mixing paint, they were like, hey, I can help you over here. They're like, nah, I'm good. I'll wait for Marcus. I'm straight. The Miss Johnsons of the world, they also heard about it now. And now they're coming to the paint store like, yo, I can get my kitchen painted for the low. I can get my whole dining room painted. I can get my house painted. Marcus is going to make it happen. So they walk to the paint store. My team member's like, hey, I can help you over here. Like, that's okay. I'll wait for Marcus. My line is out the door, and I am so thrilled about what I'm building because at every transaction, I'm making $50, $125, $75, $250, $600, $700, $300. And all I got to do when I get off work is hop on a bus. Still wasn't driving yet. Hop on a bus and go from project to project, get on another bus, go to another project, get another bus, go to another project, and just check in and be my nice, gleeful self that Ms. Johnson hired because the painters didn't understand how to articulate themselves and communicate in a way that allowed for them to close the deals that I was closing every day in that paint store. I would show up in a way that allowed for me to connect with them in a more meaningful way than the way that the painters would typically show up like, you know what, I can pay this, give me about $300, $400. They write on some triplicate paper, rip it off and give it to them. And here I come with this beautifully edited PDF that I made the night before, emailing to them with a DocuSign, allowing them to be able to sign their proposals and doing all of the things that the painters couldn't do because all my job was to do was to become the connector. I'm brokering these projects and eventually I have made enough money so I could leave that paint store. I left that paint store, I quit that job, and then I started working on major projects. I would run into somebody, this is interesting, right? Talk about opportunities and seizing them. I would run into somebody at a car dealership. I was getting my car service, and I'm always in recruitment mode because then my hustle is find a painter, find a Miss Johnson, right? Find a painter. Any paint truck I see, if you got a ladder or you got paint spilling out the back of your truck, I'm running to you. Are you a painter? Really? I would love to get your number, keep you working, blah, blah. Get my little sales pitch on, right? I got about 15 different painters on there. I need the 16th one. Because for every paint I make, I'm making about $300, $400 off each one every week, and I need more. One painter I wrote up on, he asked me, he's like, yo, you the owner of your painting business? I'm like, yeah, I'm the owner of my painting business. He was like, well, I'm the owner of my painting business too. I'm like, oh, yeah, my bad. I thought I was just recruiting a regular painter, a random painter, not the owner of a company. And he was like, well, Marcus, if you're the owner, have you ever heard of a minority business certification? I'm like, yeah. He's like, is your company minority business certified? Yeah. What is minority business certified? It was interesting because I learned inside of that conversation that apparently when state contracts are given to people, there's a set aside where they have to give 25% of any state contract to a minority or disadvantaged contractor. That will be the contract that will change everything because this painter was offering me up a contract to make 25% of the contract to paint BWI Airport. Baltimore Washington International Airport gave Marcus Bullock a 3-year contract with a 2-year option, 2 years straight out of prison. It was a multi-million-dollar deal and it completely changed my life. Strictly off of the brand that I was building, the hustle that I was beginning to exude, the authenticity that I was showing while I was working at work and trying to figure out ways to be able to be that connector. That contract would change everything for me. My mom, I was able to go to her and say, hey, Mom, you getting retired from the government now. Matter of fact, take this Infinity as a retirement gift. I want you to ride around the style. I got the mortgage from now on. I was gonna go tell my sister, like, yo, I want you to move out, you know what I mean, in this bad neighborhood because they still out here shooting every night. I want you to put you up in this other neighborhood. I think that you would live better here. I moved out my mom's house, ended up getting this beautiful condo overlooking the city. I'm driving luxury cars. I couldn't believe that my life completely changed this way, and now I'm turned all the way up. I'm traveling the world, and now my friends who I was in prison with, they calling me collect now. Like, yo, Smoke was good, bro. Like, yo, you where? You in the Bahamas? Stop playing. Bro, when you want to send me some pictures? Do you remember when your mother used to send you pictures? You don't remember? Like, bro, you home, you doing all these things. Send me some pictures. And I would tell them all the time, like, yo, bro, I promise you, if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you see my whole life, but you ain't got a cell phone in there. I'm so sorry. I don't even know how to write a letter. I definitely don't know how to print a picture. Who knows how to get a picture off their iPhone? Then I got to go buy envelopes. I got to over stamps and all these things. I'm so sorry, but my new life is not filled with things that happen in prison. My new life is filled with these new things like architectural plans and RFPs and ITBs and RFQs and all of the other business acronyms that I'm learning at the time. And I told my friends, I'm like, yo, if you had a cell phone, you would see my whole life, but you don't, and I'm so sorry. But I felt horrible because I knew that the only reason I had any level of success was because of what my mom did for me when I was in prison. And so I went out to go Google because I knew that there had been a solution for this, right? Like there was a solution to help me get my coffee quicker. There had been a solution to help me send pictures and stuff back to my friends that were in prison. And when there wasn't one, we built Flikshop. So Flikshop is the mobile app that allows our users the ability to take a picture, add some quick text, press send, and for 99 cents, we print that picture and text on a real postcard and we ship it to any person in any cell, anywhere in the country. We've grown to add other products like our photo books as well that allow for people to send meaningful photo books, we call them flick books, to jails and prisons all around the country. These meaningful moments, similar to the ones that my mom shared, have been floating in and out of jails, state prisons, federal prisons, ICE detention centers, juvenile detention centers. And one of the things I'm super excited about is that we opened up the flick books to now be able to be sent to anyone. And so now our family members who use our app not only send flick books to their loved ones who are incarcerated, but if anyone would love to be able to find a meaningful way to be able to support Flikshop, I would love for you to be able to take the time to download Flikshop and send a flick book on me. I'll give you credits and you can send them to your loved ones, one of your family members, one of your parents. Folks, your parents will love to have a book of all of your photos from campus life or just the weekend that you had, and to have it pop up in their mail will put a smile on their face, just like they did for me when I was in prison, because no one gets mail anymore outside of bills. So when they get their envelope with the photo book in it, your folks are gonna love it. I would love for you guys to try using Flikshop and send a flick book just in time for the holidays. In fact, not only have we connected families all around the country that use our product to be able to send it to people in prison and now outside of prison. In fact, people send not only to your grandmothers, your uncles, and your fathers, but they also send to folks who are in nursing homes, who are stationed in military camps that don't have access to the internet. And they're going into places that allow us to be able to impact families all over. And I'm super pumped to say that we definitely are making an impact, especially when I look at numbers like this one and say that we connected over 180,000 families around the country. 180,000 memories, 180,000 links, 180,000 connections that we hope that will create a legion of future Marcuses that are coming out of prison. Because what I will also tell you is that since I've been home and I've started now 2 successful companies, and now Flikshop being a venture-backed company that goes out to not only help support people who are in prison and military and elderly and all of those things, but we also leverage the platform that I have as a result of the success that we have to go out and do some narrative change. You see, I have a very unique opportunity because I can get in rooms like this where you, the future leaders and the business owners, the future HR directors, the future EVP of fill in the blank, you guys are going to be responsible for reviewing one of those applications like the ones I put in when I was applying for jobs. And they're going to be people that are going to be coming out of sales that are going to be looking for opportunities. And I want you to remember that there was at least one singular data point that stood in front of you as a returning citizen, formerly incarcerated person, that actually did the crime, a violent crime, and came home and still made a success path for themselves. What it does is it creates just a small seed that I'm planting all around the country to be able to signal to the world that not only am I valuable, but the other 2.3 million people that are going to be coming home out of these cells, because 95% of them are going to be coming home, that they can come home and do it too. I often go back to jails and prisons and I have a similar talk and I tell them, like, look, y'all the before and I'm the after. How we communicate amongst the two communities, your community, you all, them, their community, the employers, politicians, all of those are part of a massive communal neighborhood that I believe that we can close the gap on and provide interesting and meaningful opportunities for folks coming out of marginalized communities. Now, I'm super excited about having this conversation because since then, now we popping, we outside now. Now, I'm always finding myself in the news, whether it's in Entrepreneur magazine or Forbes or Fortune or on a big Times Square billboard. You know how wild it was for me to see my huge face on a Times Square billboard and talk about one of the most impactful apps inside of the App Store being delivered to tens of thousands of people weekly. Holy crap, my mind was blown. You know what I mean? What it feels like to be able to be asked to come to the White House and introduce what social enterprise can look like and how people coming from marginalized communities can also add value to an ecosystem that typically relegates those people like me to the shadows. It feels freaking amazing. What it feels like to hear my mom brag on me and all of the other 18 members that work in my company that also are formerly incarcerated, that says that we still push the numbers and we're able to do something dope no matter where we came from. It feels freaking amazing. Now, I'm super grateful to be able to have the success that we're experiencing today, but it means nothing if we aren't able to do it with our community. In fact, we're being very thoughtful about who some of our community partners are. And this is one of the reasons why we launched a program called the Flikshop School of Business, where we bring other formerly incarcerated people into our beautiful Class A office spaces, and we tell them that you can do it too. In fact, we build a boot camp program that centers around introducing formerly incarcerated people to the tech industry, because in the tech space, nobody cares if you got a felony. They're like, yo, can you build the thing? Can you do the data analytics? Can you be the web designer? Can you do the, no one cares if you got felony there. And so we work with partners like Delta Airlines and AWS and Amazon and WeWork and Bank of America. And so see, these are some of the partners who pay us a grip just to be able to figure out how to fill their workforce demands. It's a massive talent gap, and we're upskilling and training tons of people that are coming to the Flikshop School of Business. And it takes our community partners like them and you to allow us to be able to do that. And so as I end up, one of the things I want to be able to make sure that I leave you guys with are, again, the three things I started with that I like to call my 3 key ingredients to success. And these aren't the key ingredients that will allow for you to be able to grow and scale your ideas in more meaningful ways. These are the ideas that allow for us to be able to get out of our heads and go from 0 to 1. Because I tell people all the time, you have all the tools necessary in order to be able to take your ideas from 1 to 10. But sometimes we get hung up in what the needs are and how do we express our ideas? How do we communicate our opportunities? How do we connect ourselves to the mission of our company, specifically when we're building social enterprises? And so I leave with those same 3 things. The first one, be sure to leverage storytelling and how you build your brand in whatever it is you're doing, because I think that that's masterfully important, no matter whether or not you want to help create empathy inside of spaces like I'm doing with our product, or if you're delivering the dopest heroes outside of your food truck. Either way, think about the story that you're telling, the brand that you're building, and how you want to convey that messaging and go all the way from whatever the origin story is, all the way to what you want to see the outcome is. I don't know if you guys heard me talk about the origin in a meaningful storytelling way, and also now how I talk about what the outcomes that I want to achieve in a storytelling way. The second thing that I land on is ensuring that you're leveraging your own authenticity in order to be able to build that story in that brand. We all have our own backgrounds. We all have our own familial arrangements. We all have our friends and our circumstances. We all have the reasons as to why we're building the social enterprises that we have either ideas for, building mission statements around, or building outcomes that will allow us to be able to contribute to the world in a meaningful way. But it only works if you're showing up and being your authentic self. If I was coming in this room and being the stuffy CEO that people expect me to be when they see my name on the marquee, then I don't have the opportunity to engage, create the empathy, and also create community that allows for me to be able to enjoy the work that I do. I'll be beefing because I'll be stuffy and stuck and mad that I got to use all types of hyperboles inside of a sentence to be able to make myself sound smart. Nah, I'm smart as fuck. Oh, I'm so sorry. So sorry. So sorry. Cut that from the video. Rewind back 30 seconds and delete the F-bomb. I don't have to prove that anymore, right? Be your authentic self. And then the third one I think is massively important is ensuring that you realize that you should have no issues with becoming the connector. Too many times do we cannibalize any opportunities for ourselves because we're harboring all of the things for us, and we believe that we can't make money or we can't deliver on the goal or we can't create the impact by actually connecting. If you remember back in my original, the original business that we were building, even in the prospectus painting contractors, we were connecting the Ms. Johnsons to the painters. We're connecting people from the people who, their family members to their incarcerated loved ones with Flikshop. We're connecting our scholars at the Flikshop School of Business to our corporate partners who need job opportunities. And we catching a bag doing it in all of those three arenas. And I am unapologetic about figuring out ways to be able to make sure that I'm adding value, and I do that by becoming a connector. So as I think about the three ingredients that I always leave future entrepreneurs with, I want to make sure that you're doing all of those three things very well. How are you storytelling around your brand? Are you being authentic no matter what room you go in? And are you being thoughtful about making the connection to the person who's going to be able to get the biggest value prop and not just yourself? If we're doing all of those things meaningfully, then I think that you're on path to be able to go from 0 to 1. And you can figure out how to go from 1 to 10. All right, so I'll pause right there. Let's jump into a conversation. You guys don't feel like you ain't got a job. We can chop it up. We at the bar right now just without the bid. So yeah, chop it up with me. I would love to be able to answer any questions around the journey, any personal questions. I'm more than happy to answer any questions around the businesses that we're building. I'm more than happy to talk about any of the things. I'm very transparent. And just so you know, the awkward question that you
Just start in Q&A.
cool. This feels so formal. All right. So I'm sorry, give me a name one time.
My name is Tristan.
Tristan?
Yeah.
Tristan, I was having an interesting conversation. Tristan, I'm actually gonna pick on you. Yeah. Because while others find the courage to find, or if they find desire to try to figure out how to pinpoint something that they heard, one of those threads they want to pull out of this conversation. While they think about that, I want to pass the ball to you because I know you said you had a question for me.
Yeah. So everyone that works in the company, they are all they were all incarcerated? Or...
No.
Okay.
So not everyone, including my mom. So my mom is our relationship.
Ooh.
She ain't never did it. My mom, she's now the relationship manager over at Flikshop. And so she handles like our corporate partner relationships. So yeah, she's never been to prison before. And I think there are probably a few other people who haven't been to prison before, but all of the members of my executive team have all been in prison before. That's important to me and the ethos of the company. We wanted to be able to make sure that we shine through through the storytelling of what it is that we're building and showing the value add that people have when they come out of prison that they're capable of. But then also, to be honest, like the people who've been, if you've been incarcerated, you know our product better than anyone else, or you should know our product or the marketing, strategies that we should be deploying, or in fact, forget that. When I go when I'm having a coffee break, you know what I mean? And I got like I'm drinking some bougie juice in my office. Like we got this elderberry kombucha in my office. Let me tell you something, yo. You ain't never felt more bougie in your life than when you be guzzling this elderberry kombucha. But it's amazing. It has probiotics in it. Anyway, but when we having these conversations, in the office, it's dope to be able to have like the jokes around count time or the jokes around, and most people, they still wouldn't know what the heck we talking about. And so it's for the culture of the business, it's pretty cool to have other formerly incarcerated people part of my executive staff, and to have jobs, sustainable, family sustaining careers that will allow for them to be able to take care of their families, hopefully for generations to come. I think that's something that's missing out of the workforce, specifically for people that are coming out of prison. We still typically get relegated to having some type of, bottom end job, you know what I mean, versus building real sustainable careers. I'm glad that we're able to offer that to our team members. If you tell me your name.
My name is Michael Bailey.
You said Mike?
Michael Bailey. Michael.
Micah.
Michael.
Yes, sir. All right, cool. Michael.
Amazing story. I'm from Silver Spring, Maryland, so resonated with a lot of stuff.
You from where?
Silver Spring.
Oh, okay, yeah, my guy. That's what's up.
And I just wanted to ask you, do you feel that being charged as an adult was something that Do you think that they could have done that or that they were supposed to do that? And have you ever thought of prison reform?
It's a great question. Thank you for that one. So yeah, when they certified me as an adult, it was during a time in the country that was interesting politically. This came off the heels of a crime that was committed in New York by a group of people who eventually got blamed for the crime. It wasn't even them. They now call them the exonerated five. You guys watched the movie? Okay, cool. So you guys know the story. You know, Central Park Five, now Exonerated Five, whatever. If you haven't watched it, what's the name of the movie? Anybody remember the name of the movie?
No.
It's not called Central Park Five. It's called something else. It's one on Netflix. Jace, you do the research. Let's find out what that movie's called. If you haven't, it's a dope movie. It's fire. But that case, and if you don't know about the case, essentially, what is it? When they see us. When they see us. When they see us. Dope movie. Essentially, what happened was a woman was jogging through Central Park in New York. It was a white woman jogging through Central Park in New York. She was brutally raped and beat up. And she went to the police. They didn't know who did it. They found these 5 boys that were like running through the park, moving around on that time. They just snagged them up just because they met a profile of what the attackers looked like for them. None of these boys that did it, but the police had kind of sort of built the case because they just needed to catch somebody for this Central Park rape. I mean, it was in Central Park, you know what I mean? It was a white woman and it was like the 90s. It was like wild, right? And so the country was in an uproar. In fact, like businessmen who later became, you know, major politicians, they were like taking out ads, you know, like basically they were on like some Pilot with Jesus type time, crucify them, right? And they gave all these boys all this time. They didn't do it. They eventually got exonerated for crime later. But in the wake of that ad that dropped, they started to nickname people who were young, and because these boys in Central Park, they were like teenagers around the same age I was, and they put a nickname on these on young Black boys, and they called us all super predators. That was a label that we received. So if you Google super predators in the 90s, there's like articles. I'm probably one of them, but there's articles upon articles about Black boys that were, you know, going to prison, created the crime bill, all the things. What it also did was it told the country, like, yo, look, we got to do something about this. You know what I mean? Like, yo, these super predators are coming to our communities and they're terrorizing us. And so what do we do? And so they were like, yo, look, all these kids, I don't care how old they are, certify them as adults. They want to commit these crimes, certify them as adults, throw them in prison, lock them up, throw away the key. Because if you certify them as an adult, any type of violent crime typically comes with a ridiculously long sentence. So all these young people going to prison. And they said, hey, look, in order to be able to make sure that this law permeates around the country, we want to incentivize states for prosecuting these young people this way by bumping the number that the federal government, by bumping the amount of money that the federal government would give to the state to an exorbitant amount. So it's like, yo, look, we give you $50,000 per person that you incarcerate. But after this, if you adopt this new law and you certify young people as adults, we'll give you $75,000 per person that you incarcerate. So the states is like, wait, what? Bet. They start locking up all these kids and giving us all this time because they knew that my body could generate the state $75,000 a year for my. That's what private prison industry came in. Because private prison is like, oh, they're locking up more people. They need more space. We can take this land in these rural areas that is cheap, buy the land, build a prison, cheap construction costs, give all the people in that area a job because they only working at Walmart or selling crystal meth. That was a horrible generalization. I hate that. My bad. Cut that from the video. So they would build out these communities, and then they were like, "Yo, look, now we built this prison that holds got 2,000 beds. Shoot, now we got to fill them up." To start giving people even more time. I got caught up in that wave of that political thing. So that became a crime bill that even most people began to run on. So politicians began to run on the crime bills, and now there was an overturning of a lot of those bills now because we found out later on that they were horrendous and they were predatory, specifically on Black and brown bodies. And so they kind of did the back turn. Now, that was the reason why I got certified as an adult and why they sent me to adult prisons. The other part of your question, do I think they should have done that? Like, hell no, I was 15. You know what I mean? I wanted to open up Christmas gifts with my friends. You know what I mean? So absolutely, I don't think they should have. But I also say that I think that I'm a spiritual guy. I wear my relationship with Christ on my sleeve openly. And so I also say like, yo, God bless me, man. Like, yo, like that was a massively dark cloud, but my silver lining that I'm blessed to be able to build now as a result of that experience allowed me to be able to build one of the most impactful apps in the App Store, right? So, hey, who would have thought? That's pretty cool, you know what I mean? Chance to travel the world and have conversations like this, you know what I mean? Dope, for the win, right? I don't recommend that as a career path for most 15-year-olds, but I'm grateful that God uses me in that way in order to be able to transform the system and lead to your third question around justice reform. I spend so if you Google Marcus Bullock, the majority of the content you're going to see is things centered around the soapbox that I stand on around justice reform and why we should go back and, repeal some of these laws, take a look at some of the legislation that's, permeating around the country, specifically for Black and brown people that are being, sent to these cells in droves. I think a bit about how second chance hiring is going to impact, the wellness of our communities. I think of incarceration and reentry as a healthcare issue. It's a massive healthcare issue, right? If we aren't taking care of these people in meaningful ways, then how are we thinking about the psychological and mental wellness of our communities as well as all of things? So I spent a bit of time having and leading conversations around those two. Keeping kids out of prison and figuring out what a successful reentry path is. The vast majority of my time I spend as an entrepreneur, as a CEO of the company, is trying to figure out how do we leverage the tech data systems and the algorithms that we're building now to be able to build predictive measurements that allow for us to be able to leverage all of this data that we're receiving, people sending pictures and all this stuff. I know people locked up at, when they coming home, their family members, where they locked up, where they're sending postcards from, all the things where we have all this data. How do we leverage this in order to be able to point toward the systems that we want to be able to build? And I think that's one of the also unique places where I stand. So we don't just use a soapbox and a microphone. We're also able to do the data aggregation to be able to support some of the things that we give in the soapbox to talk about. Did I do a good job of answering your 3 questions? Cool. I'll get you and then I'm coming.
Hi, my name is Robbie.
Robbie?
Yeah.
What's up, Robbie? How you?
Good. So going back to when you said it was one of the a big turning point in your life with the carjacking. After going through the prison center and then coming back out and building the life you have now, have you ever connected or got in touch with the man that you carjacked with and ever spoken to him and, reflected or said, I was young, it's not who I was still figuring out things and kind of, I don't know what the right word is, but been able to get that kind of point in your time and make use of it?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that question. Like, in those moments of wanting to create, the times I want to create those redemptive moments in my life, that was one of the things that, we were excited about trying to figure out how to do. When I first came home, I was on it, like, yo, how do I, for real, I just want to apologize. Before any of the success happened, I just want to apologize because I can imagine the trauma that man must feel or potentially feel as a result of what we did to him in that parking lot that night, right? This is wild. The crime happened on December 7th. We got arrested December 8th. So it legit happened on the anniversary. We got arrested on the anniversary day. I'm gonna create content about that. I'm glad I did this. If y'all follow me, watch the content I create around this thing. I didn't even realize this. But when I first came home, I wanted to try to figure that out. And then it got lost on me. And I'm like, it became a uphill battle. And it was like, I cared a lot less, if I'm being honest. And then what happened was, as the success started to come as the result of the businesses and all the things, it created a space where I wasn't just concerned about the trauma that we potentially caused in his life, but I was legit, I became a bit more empathetic around what him and his family may be going through as a result of always communicating about what people that incarcerate their families may be going through, right? That empathy goes both ways. And there was some reciprocity that needed to happen, you know what I mean? In between the two of us, because he gave a lot to me already by just, being the victim of a crime. I need to figure out how to give back as well. And what happened, I started raising capital. Once we started raising capital, one of our potential, we got the fundraising, we have fundraising conversations. Y'all know what I mean when I say raising capital. We started raising capital. One of our investors who wanted to jump on our cap table, he asked me, he was like, yo, look, before I jump on this cap table, because your name is popping now, right? You know what I mean? And because of that, it's possible that I'll be associated with you because you're easy to find, you know what I mean, or because of your presence, the success that you built for yourself, which is also Marcus. But I don't know if I want to be attached to this if there's some lingering things that happen. In fact, one of the lingering things I'm concerned about, because I was a victim of a crime, Marcus, is how the victim potentially sees you. And I told that investor, I said, listen, when we first started this thing, I definitely wanted to figure out how to connect with him, the victim, and then I just stopped. And then he challenged me like, yo, look, well, he challenged me in a meaningful way because he was like, yo, I ain't gonna write you a check unless you talk to him. So that was the interesting challenge. I mean, he didn't just try to say, I would challenge you to do it. He was like, yo, I ain't gonna write you a check unless you do it. And so I was like, all right, cool. I want to do it. So this incentivizes me to want to figure out how to fight through the uphill battle, to figure out how to, because he was writing a big check. And I'm like, yo, I need to say sorry. And so I wasn't buying a sorry, y'all. Don't judge me. And so I wanted to try to find him, but I was still even unsuccessful. And that investor did not invest in our company. But that was a moment that forced me to acknowledge him and even softly, like, either call his name or talk about the travesty of that moment and what that meant, not just for my life, but his life as well, open the conversations, because the reality of it is that I be on TV, young, and I don't want him somewhere to be sitting at home one day and turn the TV and be like, he on TV talking about how he robbed me. It's like him a war for this, right? Like, that would be horrible from his lens, you know what I mean? And so I want to try to figure out how to get in front of that. I haven't been able to successfully do it. So if you see it later on, you're like, oh, Marcus finally figured out a way to do things.
Yeah.
Thank you for that question.
Good morning. Yes.
Still.
My name is Isaiah. I want to speak about like building your brand and, like, you know, being that connector. And I noticed that Flikshop is spelled without a C. Is there like a specific reason in terms of like brand building? I know you said that you use slang a lot. Is that a part of that, or is it intentional that it's without the C?
Dude, you got to know that everything about me is intentional. You have to know that. All right. So I'm joking. The going back to, so for one, around the Flikshop, but obviously, first of all, let's go to Flikshop. The word Flikshop is such a cool word. That's like, I think it's the magic of business, right? It's like, oh man, that's a really cool one. I ain't gonna hold you. That was a good one I came up with. I think people suffer from that. Like, yo, they'll have a good name. People have horrible names for their companies. Flikshop is really dope. It rolls off your tongue. It's easy to say. When we first launched it, the question was like, yo, why did you call it Flikshop, Marcus? And I would tell people often, because in prison they call it pictures flips. And so, you know, you build in your picture book, you build in postcard, Flikshop, and that's how the name came. When we first built it, because, you know, phonetically, you know, Flikshop, and I had the C in it. What happened was, it was spelled Flickshop. We went to go buy the domain name, and somebody already owned the domain name with the C in it. And then that's what I'm like, well, let's just take the C out. And we took it out, we left it with just the K, and I got a logo built for it. Boom. That was how Flikshop came about. So it wasn't that one really was accidental. It was like, oh snap. It was going to be called Flikshop. You know what I mean? And then for the first few years, spell check didn't recognize Flikshop without a C. And so that was a blow. So I kept getting the red squiggly. Now, you know how dope it is to not get the red squiggly over, you know, of your company name? That means we Google them. But that was the intentionality around just the brand around the word Flix, because we knew that the residents in the prison could identify because that's what it was. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I had one over here, and I'm gonna come back to you.
Yeah, it was me. Yeah, my name is Joe, and
Be clear about now.
but yeah, great story, by the way. It hit deep. And but one question I had though is the friend you did the crime with, you still talk to him today?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. So my boy Dwayne. I met Dwayne in the Benjamin Banneker Math Club at SUNY. And then we ended up playing we was on the same basketball team. It became my best friend. It was like, this was my guy. Then we committed carjacking together, right? And then we got sentenced we got certified as adults together. We got sentenced together. And the way that my judge sentenced me versus the way that his judge sentenced him was a roll of the dice of, we had two different judges. So we both got sentenced to 23 years to life. That was my sentence, 23 years to life. But my judge suspended 15 of those years and told me I had to serve 8 of them in adult maximum security. He got 23 to life. His judge told them that he's going to suspend 14 of his years, he had to serve 9 years in adult maximum security. So he had 1 more year more than me. When I first came home and I got that job at the paint store, I promised him, I was like, yo, dude, when you come home, you won't have to jump through the same hurdles I had to jump through to get a job. You know, I'm going to get you a job at the paint store with me. So he came home. I got him a job at the paint store with me. In fact, we started that painting business together. And that was dope, you know what I mean? But what happened was he was like, yeah, so this knocking on doors and asking people to paint their kitchens thing really ain't my thing. I actually want to go back to school. And I'm like, yo, I think you should go back to school. I'm not going back to school because I can't do homework. But you should definitely do that. No, don't judge me. I probably shouldn't say that on a campus, right? But he was like, I'm like, look, well, if you want to do this, like, let's make enough bread for you to be able to go pay for your first semester. So he applied to go to Howard University. He had to check that same box. Howard told him, Michael Jackson, beat it. Stop it. They told him no, that he couldn't come there. So he was like, well, Dad, I can't go to this 4-year university. He's going to go enroll in the community college. So he went to Prince George's Community College, right outside of DC. And it was dope. He did like 2 more projects with me to make enough money for him to be able to pay for school. And then he got scholarships from that point forward. Once he got into school, he ended up graduating from Prince George's Community College. He got his associates, which was dope. He was like the commencement speaker. That was fire. But now it allowed for him he was a great student. He allowed for him to be able to transfer into a 4-year university without having to apply. He could just transfer. And then he transferred to the University of Maryland College Park. He went to University of Maryland College Park. And then he became the #1 student, the top student there, graduated from UMD. We was at the Xfinity, at that time, the Comcast Center. I'm like, oh, that's my boy. He was the commencement speaker at that joint. I'm like, this is wild. I'm in the box, like, that's the way, my boy. All my families there was watching. It was super dope. And then when he graduated, he was like, yeah, so I got all these scholarships to be able to go to school, but he still took out student loans in order to be able to live. I didn't go to school, so I don't even know what none of that means. But he took out student loans so he could still like pay his bills and live or what have you, because the scholarships paid for the actual class. So when he graduated, he was like, oh, snap. Apparently you got to like pay student loans back once you graduate, right? And so he was like, yeah, well, that ain't gonna happen. So I'm about to go back to school. So he can defer the student loans. I'm like, I bet. Where you go? He's like, yo, you know what? I think I actually want to figure out how to get on the other side of these reform conversations. So I want to try to go to law school. I'm like, dope, you should do that. By this time, I'm working at BWI Airport. You know what I mean? I'm doing my thing. I'm doing my entrepreneurial thing. He's going to school. And so he starts applying to all these different law schools. And it was wild because once he started getting accepted in the law schools, he's like, oh, this is dope. You want to go to law school, bro? And he waited until, the acceptance time to his top 2 schools to come through. Once he got accepted into like UVA and Michigan and all that, he's like, oh, dang, I'm accepted to the top law schools. I'm gonna wait and see what happens with the Ivies. He held out a bit longer. He finally got the offer from both Harvard and Yale, which was dope. And then he was like, yo, he actually took it's a fellowship called a Fulbright that he took at Harvard. He did the Fulbright at Harvard, and he was like, yeah, but Yale gonna offer me a full ride to go to Yale Law. So he transferred. He ended up going to Yale. Came #1 in his class at Yale. He was the flag bearer of the graduation when we were at Yale. That's a whole nother. You don't want to see Marcus turned up. I'm turned up just here, like drinking water. At my boy graduation, yo, you talk about turn, I was wild. And Yale is just not the place for me. It's just like nothing about this, Yale building says that someone like me should be this turned. I was at the graduation lit. I'm talking about, I was so proud, me and my boy, you know what I mean? Like even the commencement speech at that one, it was by the dean, and he was talking about our case. I'm like, this is wild. But his name is Dwayne Betts. You can Google him. In fact, the last year, so he graduated, top of his class. He ended up taking a federal clerkship, working for a judge in Philly. And then he continued. He wrote a couple of books did really well. The first book he wrote was Question of Freedom. It was about he and I going to prison. Did really well. He wrote a bunch of more poetry books. And most recently, last year, was it last year, maybe the year before last, he was the winner of the MacArthur Genius Grant. And so he won like $600,000 for being a genius. So that was really dope. But now my best friend, my brother, and we talk often, Now our worlds kind of sort of collide a bit because he's made it to a level of success in academia, and my level of success in the entrepreneurial spaces allow us to be able to have reform conversations on stages that we would have never dreamt about having. That's my guy. No doubt. I think it was one on this side. Yes.
Hi, my name is Melissa. It's very nice to meet you.
What's up, Melissa? Nice to meet you too.
Thanks. Thank you for coming here and sharing your story.
Pleasure.
It was
If you can't tell, I'm having the time of my life.
it was very inspiring. I just want to ask, with Flikshop, have you ever thought about, like, I know you've probably heard of like the pen pal programs that a lot of us have. Have you ever thought about expanding, like, instead of having a program or like volunteers to be in and write letters or have postcards sent to inmates that don't have family or have friends, etc.
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. That's dope. I mean, when we first launched, that wasn't on my radar. It wasn't, and I knew. I mean, I was in prison, and I knew the pen pal. And in fact, I was the one that was just trying to subscribe to all the pen pal services so I can get more mail from people. So when I knew that thing existed, but we weren't intentional about like trying to figure out how to connect those. We really wanted to figure out how to develop product. If I could lean on anything else, like specifically for entrepreneurs that are thoughtful about bringing product to market, like now in this age, like I would tell all entrepreneurs, like look, focus on product. Like how you been thoughtful about your product? What's product distribution? What's the product channels? What are the omni-channel marketing, tools you want to leverage for product advancement? Product, right? In the earlier days, because we were so laser focused on building product, we wanted to be able to get the processes right, get the fulfillment right? Because we're dealing with a digital to print service where you got to mail stuff. So we want to get all that logistical stuff together. And then eventually we would get those questions often when people were like, look, Marcus, this is dope. Because I would go into rooms like this and be like, all right, cool. I want to use Flikshop before we open it up to, you can send one to anybody. When we first launched, you could only send them to people in prison. He was like, look, Flikshop is dope. And I don't know anybody in prison, but I would love to be able to support this and maybe write somebody who doesn't. And I started getting those questions. And so I started to spend a bit more time with my mom and working with her to help her understand how to meet with some of these organizations, whether it be from like a prison ministry, some colleges and universities have prison pen pal programs. There's a Kroger grocery store. They have a team that has like prison pen pal programs. Like, so there were these different communities that were doing that. And we were like, how do we do this at scale? And so we did start working with them and supporting them in an interesting way. And folks loved it because, take pictures and send really, really quickly to your pen pals. But then it was like, how do we support people who we don't know? Like, who, if you aren't a prison, if you don't have a pen pal, or if it's just like just you and not an organization. And so we added a tool within the app. So while you guys download the app, if you would like to be able to just brighten someone's day, there on the top panel, there's a section that allows you to be able to participate in two different ways, meaningful ways. One, you can become a Flikshop angel, where you purchase Flikshop credits that we give to children with incarcerated parents. The second way is to be able to send an anonymous postcard. So there are two buttons. Flikshop Angels, send anonymous postcard. If you click on the one that says send anonymous postcard, it's like, who you want to send a postcard to? Send someone to a woman, someone with a birthday, someone's getting released soon, so a couple of other choices you can choose from. You can tap each one, filter whatever your filtration is, and then you can send 1 to 100 postcards to anybody anonymously just to brighten someone's day and make them smile because it's so necessary. So thank you so much for asking that question.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I think I had one on this side. I'm gonna come right back to you.
I'm Nabia.
What's happening, Nabia? Nabia, you are a head nodder too. So I want to shout out to the head nodders in the room. Thank you so much for making me feel welcome the entire time. I appreciate you.
My question is, what was it like to transition into your position of leadership?
Oh, that was a great one. Now we get a leadership question.
Yeah, because I
mean, potatoes.
a lot of people
Awkward
have been in
ass.
some. Yeah.
I didn't realize that I was transferring to a leadership position until someone called me a leader. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I get excited about coming to spaces where I can call people leaders, whether it's not my formerly incarcerated students who roll in the Flikshop School of Business, or to, if you remember like 20 minutes ago, how I alluded to you all being the future leaders, of the folks who are going to be hiring the Marcuses of the world, right? I think that it takes time for us to be able to develop the self-awareness in our own leadership acumen that points toward the dope leaders that we are. And I didn't develop that level of self-awareness until I had given myself the permission to call myself a leader. And it only came as a result of someone else calling me a leader. And so I invest a ton of time ensuring that I speak life into other people, because I'm so grateful for the folks who spoke life into me during a time when it wasn't that I wasn't smart enough to be able to see my own leadership capabilities, but it probably, I had just for being honest, the self-doubt that I could be the one that could deliver on all of what I knew that I wanted to deliver on as a leader. You see, there's a difference between someone who wants to build a thing and someone who wants to lead, right? Because most people who just simply want to build a thing, they get behind all of the people, places, and things that they want to push them and call themselves the leader because they're nudging and pushing people in the direction they want them to go. And that's the person who I was for a long time. And I believe that because I was able to convene and build community, that my personality will allow for me to be able to practice this model towards success. It wasn't until folks called me a leader and named me as a leader, and then I started identifying what the leadership principles were for me. And then I started reading about other leaders and how they exemplify leadership in their own companies or organizations. And I was like, oh, snap. This shouldn't be a thing of me pushing people in the direction I want them to go. I learned how to be able to get in front of people and pull them along with me along the journey versus getting behind people and pushing them in a direction. See, there's a difference in that, right? And when I learned that I was responsible for doing that, it activated something in me and allowed for me to be able to show up and be the intentional leader that I knew I had to be. And at that point, I started to want to develop the leadership principles that allowed me to be able to grow and scale my ideas. So I think that there was something about investing in people that investing in me, and shout out to all the folks who just deposited in me and all the people who deposited in you, because those are really the ones who, we all point to like the high school teacher, the third grade teacher, the person who said something to us, the thing that we'll never forget, right? Those are the building blocks toward what the leadership skills were developing in my life. But now in this new season, it's a little less awkward. Now I walk into it. I walk through the world with audacity. Now I'm beefing when I don't get the thing, or when I'm not leading the thing, or I don't walk through the world looking for the permission any longer. And that comes along with the strength that I built by continuing to pull people along that journey and leading in that way. Did I do a good job with answering your question?
Most definitely, thank you.
Awesome. It was one of the, okay.
Yeah, so I'm currently taking an AI class.
Yo, that's what's up. I can't wait to hear about that. I got questions for you now.
Yeah. So my question is have you, or if you haven't, how can you use AI to leverage Flikshop or create it into a bigger?
So one of the tools that we've been working on at the Flikshop School of Business is an EdTech learning platform that allows us to be able to digitize our classroom. The upside to Marcus, is that like I can kind of sort of, I don't use the term code switch. I really don't code switch. Y'all can see that. I don't really code switch. You know what I mean? But I'm able to feel I'm comfortable in my skin. I'm authentic enough to show up in any environment and bring the Marcus effect to any room I'm in, right? With confidence and comfortability, right? And I think it's one of the things that allows for me to be able to be successful. It's the main reason why I bring the 3 ingredients, right? And what happened was I was really good and uniquely skilled at delivering these courses inside of these prisons and now outside these prisons, and it was dope. And people at the prison operators, they like the wardens, they called me. They're like, yo, bro, you got to come back. And I'm like, nah, that's not my business model. We send photo books to people in prison. We don't really teach these classes. And we started to grow the Flikshop School of Business only because those wardens said me like, yo, you got to come back. I don't even know what you told them dudes in that classroom, but now you got men walking around the prison wreck y'all using words like product market fit. So whatever you did is working, need you to come back. So I'm like, all right, cool. Look, can you pay me this? I can come back. They're like, cool. I'm like, what? I just threw a random arbitrary number out there, right? It was so high that I'm like, yo, there's no way you're going to say yes to this. When they said, yeah, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. One, it established the amount of value that we're bringing to a space. And then 2, I'm about to go get all them off-whites. Anyway, so what happened was I said yeah to that. And that was the thing that allowed me to be able to also see that I couldn't be in both South Florida, New York, LA, Chicago, Houston, all of these all at one time. But the magic of the classroom is Marcus, right? Like we talk about the same things that most professors talk about in their classrooms, but the delivery and how we articulate the things allows for our, specifically this group of people to connect with the content a bit quicker, and it accelerates their learning path, getting them quicker to the end goal. It's not scalable because Marcus can't be in all these different cities. So how do you build something that is? And that's what, I own a tech company, so we started to launch that path. We started to build this tool. We call it Flikshop Me. It's an ed tech platform. It's a learning management system. It allows us to be able to capture the content inside the classes. So if I'm in a classroom like this, it's a videographer, a couple of cameras capturing, then we make them into micro videos that we deliver on inside of a curriculum that we build that's centered around the boot camp that we have. We distribute that content, through the LMS, to all these different places around the country. And one of the things that we've been working on over the last few months now is leveraging some of these prompts that we're building to be able to predict how our learners are moving through the curriculum. And so y'all are way too young to remember, but there was this, it was a character that was anthropomorphized. That's a random word. It was a character that was like made to life. That's why I don't like to be pretentious. That's why I use words like that. It was made to life. It was called Clippy by Microsoft Office. It was like a paper clip. You remember Clippy? You remember Clippy?
Yeah.
You telling yourself. You telling yourself. The Clippy was like this little live action thing on the bottom of your screen. If you needed help, it would jump out and it'd be like, hey, it's like a little paper clip. Hey, I can help you. What you need? This little thing. It was wild. It was, no one really used it. It was an animated thing. It was really cool. And so we leverage our logo, our character logo, we call Stampy. If you look at Google Flikshop, you'll see the little stamp logo. We call him Stampy. He's the anthropomorphized character that we built into our learning management system that allows for him to pop up and take all of what you're learning and aggregate all of that. We leverage these large language models and our prompts to be able to predict where you should be working because it's a self-paced class, how you should be working, to report on it. I do a read of about 1,000 different prompts for Marcus, and then we used Midjourney to build the fake Marcus that also is in the screen that uses one of those prompts to say, yo, you did your thing, Bob. Oh! Right. And then, and then leverage. So the AI tool is going to, one, create Stampy in a way that helps walk you through the curriculum. And then Marcus is the one that kind of sort of motivates you to continue to go through based off what you're working on. I'm excited to see how we leverage these tools. It's kind of weird because I'm like, yo, how much this thing going to learn about Marcus? And at some point, it's just going to completely make Marcus obsolete. Like it's going to learn enough to be like me, right? So that's weird, but I have fun, working with these tools that allow us to be able to scale ideas in interesting ways. I think it's something smart about elasticizing your products by adding these AI tools to it. I'm excited to see what the future takes us to that. I got it. I got it. Give me the phone. I answer. No. Oh, you already talked already. Hold on. I'll come back to you.
My name is Tall. I have a quick question.
Oh, your name is who?
Tall.
Tall?
Yeah.
Like T-A-L-L?
T-A-L.
T-A-L. Okay.
Yeah.
Tall.
So what's one thing that TV shows or movies get right about prison, and what's one thing that they get wrong?
Whoa, that was dope. No one's ever asked me that question. That was a dope question. You a journalist? You a journalist?
No, not at all.
Are you a writer?
Debatable.
Maybe. Debatable. Fans.
Debatable.
All right. So what do movies get right? That prisons exist. What are the things that movies get wrong? Pretty much everything. You know what I mean? Like the reality of like there are these glimpses. Like if someone were, asking me to consult on a film, right, about a movie that had to deal with something in prison, the way that I would tell the story would make the movie just be boring. You know what I mean? Like it would be mad boring. You know what I mean? Because prison is boring. Like there's not an exciting place that you see in like there's always action and motion going on. Prison is like the movie Groundhog Day. I'm dating myself again because it's an old movie, but it's like anybody seen that movie? You didn't have to use the word classic. You didn't have to. You know what I mean? Fantastic. All I thought said class. I was like, golly, Bob, we was just good friends. He called me old. right.
Now, what's the question?
It's like it's literally repeating the same day over and over and over and over again. And it's a massive uproar when the one thing happens. And when the one thing happens, the prison officials are responsible for ensuring that they engulf all of the motion and like make that sizzle and go away, that action go away as quickly as possible. So I alluded to it before, like somebody might get hurt, right? Somebody might, somebody stabbed or beat up, whatever the case is, right? When they lock down, immediately, boom, lock down, everybody. Bells go off, go in your cell. If you're not in your cell, you're gonna get beat up, then you're gonna get dragged to the hole. In isolation, you're gonna be there. No one wants to get beat up by a bunch of police. So you run in your cell and they lock the doors and then they shut everything down. So if something happens, somebody stabbed, 3 minutes later, everybody's in their cell. So it's not like melee and all the things that happens in the movies, right? It's like boom, everybody go in their cell, and then a week later, you come out your cell. A week, right? So you in that cell for a week, they're doing an investigation, what happened, they checking the camera, see if they can see anything, most times they don't, if they do, they hide it, because everybody want to do the investigation paperwork, and if somebody gets caught for doing a thing, and it's like, a murder or something like really, really crazy, most times than not, the people who committed don't, because the officers, the amount of work that you got to do to justify or say something about that crime that's happened, the officers don't want to do that work. So they will rather say, let that person bleed out. Because if we got to call a medic and we got to do the things, we got to get the ambulance got to circle the wreck yard 2 times to be able to make sure there's no openings before they come into the wreck yard, for prevent escape, all the things. Some people do things to create the melee, do the escape, well, right? So they'll shut it all down. You see the ambulance several times, and you won't know what happened until a week later. So, prison is boring. It legit is boring. It's a place that drives you crazy. In movies, they depict the physiological damage that can happen. Somebody get beat up. For real, the hardest part for me, and for most people, is the psychological impact of prison, right? Like legit. We're human. Our brains are designed and nurtured to be connected to one another, to be around people, right? And prison is the most isolating place ever. And you start getting in your head. I was starting to go crazy. Like I legit was going wild. I was talking to myself a lot. I didn't even realize I was talking to myself a lot. I would be I would be shooting jump shots in the air by myself, doing push-ups, talking to myself, God and myself, right? Until I realized that it's no one in the cell but me. Legit having real conversations out loud with the other person in the room, right? Not knowing them, not realizing there's someone else in the room, right? It was wild to think about that. And that's every day for the hundreds of people that are there. So I think that when movies get wrong, everything. It's boring. It's really boring.
Thank you. What happened to your private painting contract? Was it a company or was it a contractor?
It was a contracting company.
It was a contracting company.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to it? Did you continue it when you were making your business?
It's a great question.
Did you just let it go? Did you give it to someone else? What happened to it?
Yeah, so, and we launched Flikshop. When we launched Flikshop, let's do the timeline. We launched Flikshop in 2012. We launched in 2012. 2012, 13, and 14, I was running both businesses in tandem, right? Flikshop was like the side hustle company. It really wasn't generating any real revenue, right? This kitchen remodel was an $80,000 kitchen. So this is where my time was spent, And I would print postcards and do things at night, in my office when I got off. When I got off work at the construction business. And that was 12, 13, 14. It started to pick up. It went from 5 orders a day to 10 orders a day to 50 orders a day to 100 orders. And I was like, oh snap, this y'all got some legs. Wait a minute, the potential upside, I legit just wanted to send pictures to my friends. I wasn't trying to build a business. I was modeling kitchens. We were doing basements, we were painting buildings, schools. The potential upside of this business that I didn't have to actually always be on job sites, I could legit work behind a screen every day. And if we could go from 100 orders a day to 1,000 orders a day, then this is something that could potentially grow and give me a massive exit later on, right? And that's why I started to pay a bit more attention to Flikshop. I started investing more of my time and resources in, from these remodels. I'll take a bunch of cash out of this construction business, dump it in this company. in 2016 is when I got introduced to building a sustainable tech company. I hadn't heard of any of these new buzzwords that I use every day now, right? I hadn't heard of any of the things, right? The first time that someone asked me was a business development person that's at my now law firm that represents Flikshop. They'd asked me, it was like, yo, look, who's on your cap table? I'm like, what is, I'm not doing multiplication. What are you talking about? What's your cap table? And he was like, yo, who are your investors? And in my head, I'm like, yo, I'm not on a New York Stock Exchange. Like, how would someone invest in my company? Like, I didn't understand what that really meant. And then he was like, well, how do you who you want to raise capital from? And he was using all these all this vernacular. I had no idea what he was talking about, right? Mind you, I'm Googling the entire conversation. And that was the moment I was like, oh, snap. So every business doesn't build and grow off of revenue? Interesting. So people raise money from high net worth individuals? No way. People get checks from rich people to start businesses? Stop playing. Why don't I know anybody that's rich? And so I started like trying to figure out what that meant after that conversation. When we got our first investor in 2016, it was wild. One of my friends out at the party in LA, and she sees John Legend using the Flikshop app. And she's like, oh my God, you use Flikshop? Marcus would be so excited to know you use Flikshop. He's like, well, who the heck is Marcus? And he's like, the owner of the app, you know what I mean? He's like, and she's telling me the story. He's like, oh, wait a minute, this guy's been in prison before? Oh my gosh, I would love to be able to connect with him. And so she sends me the email, but she doesn't tell me who she's connecting me with. She's like, yo, I hop on a call. And it was at this time, this was before everything virtual. Zoom was brand new, right? I hop on this Zoom call. He's not on camera. I'm on camera. I'm having a conversation with this person named John. No idea who I'm talking to. She gets on the call. Like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I'm running late. It's not every day we get an EGOT winner on the phone. Da, da, da. I'm like, wait a minute, wait, what? And then he's like, oh, my bad, I'm not on camera. He comes on camera like, yo, stop playing. Now I'm turning into a fan, right? I'm no longer CEO of Flikshop. I'm like, oh, right? This is dope. And he was like, yo, this is wild. Like, he started going through the story of how we built the company. He's like, yo, what is your biggest barrier? I'm like, yo, I don't know how to. I'm learning these terms around raising capital and how. He's like, yo, Brett, like, let's get you some money. He's like, matter of fact, I want to invest in your company. Like, stop lying. He's like, it's not for real. I'm going to invest in your company, but more than me investing in your company, Marcus, are we able to find like other women and men that are formerly incarcerated that are building businesses like this? Like, can I help support this? I'm like, are you serious right now? He was like, oh, look, I got a nonprofit. We just started. I can bring in some partners. He called up Bank of America. He flew me up. John Legend flew me up to New York. We announced this new partnership about him investing in our company. He announced that he wanted to invest in 7 other formerly incarcerated people, a total of 8 of us. He wanted to ensure that all the investments were non-dilutive investments, so he didn't take any ownership at all inside the company. Once we got that investment from John Legend, then we was popping. Then it was like, oh, snap, you know what I mean? Like, so then all the people who slammed the doors in my face during that time, some of them opened them back up now, right? We had a little bit more credibility. He validated our business model and just the fact that people wanted to be around a celebrity, right? Then we got our next decent sized investment from a business accelerator called Techstars. When Techstars wrote us a check, that's when things turned up. I acquired another janitorial firm that was started by one of my other boys that came out of prison. He came home from prison and started, so we were building, he built a janitorial firm in Southern Maryland, started to do well. At that time, I had enough bread. I bought his company. He came to be my VP over Perspectives. He started to run the construction business, which allowed me to free me up to work a bit more on Flikshop. Once we got our next investment, I'm like, yo, look, I'm off to the races. I told my boy, brought him in the office, I'm like, young, I'm ready to go. You want to buy this joint? He was like, say less. Yes. I mean, I get 100% of the revenue? Yes, let me get that. So he bought the construction company for me. I had a decent exit, allowed me to go for a couple of years without having to worry about any bread and how I'm going to finance and still pay my kids tuition and all the things. While I was running this new startup, Flikshop. And now to this day, my boy Tony continues to run that construction business, and it does around a little over $6 million a year revenue.
What was like, what was the most expensive contract that you had? If that's probably that.
No, I want the uncomfortable questions.
Okay.
The most uncomfortable questions are the best questions.
Yeah. What was the most
I'm cool with talking about money,
Okay, perfect.
all the things.
Okay. And then the second one, what what was the moment?
What was the biggest contract we had for the construction business?
Yeah.
Oh.
Also. in
We have
Flikshop
time
too.
for only one question.
Okay, so that's that one,
Oh,
just that
okay.
one. Yeah, that's just that question.
All right, cool.
Also, what made you like notice that you made it to? Because I think that's probably entirely with that.
Rapid fire, real fast. The biggest contract was definitely still the BWI contract for the construction. The biggest contract for Flikshop was Boeing. Boeing is our biggest customer for Flikshop. We get about $250,000 a year from them. And then the second question was,
What moment did you think that, like, okay, yeah, I made it? Was it that contract, that first one? Like, that's the moment you felt like you made it? Or was it something?
when I
else?
bought my 650, when I bought my BMW, when I bought my first luxury car, when I bought my first luxury car, I felt like I made it. Cause I was able to like carry the dude at the dealership. The guy at the dealership that wanted to sell me the car, he was acting like a butthole. And yeah, it was tough because I was still working at the paint store at the time. I was running paint business, but I was working at a paint store at the time. I had my uniform on, it had paint all over me. I was driving my girlfriend's car, my now wife. She had a Toyota Echo. She was like this big.
Yeah.
I drove that joint to the dealership. He was like, "You driving that? And you want a 650 drop top?" And he wouldn't even let me test drive it. And I was beefing. And so I went to another dealership and I bought it. I bought another 650 and I couldn't wait to drive it back to the dealership. You know, be like, "Yo, can you, that's what you do a walk around in my car to make sure everything is good." I didn't even have a reason to go to the dealership. I went just for that. That was the moment I felt like I made it when I saw his face.
I got you, yeah.
I just want to say, wow, what an amazing experience it has been listening to your story. It was a roller coaster of emotions. I've never seen anyone engage a crowd the way you just did. You are an inspiration. You have seen the light in the deepest darkness, and you're a true embodiment of the idea that anything is possible, no matter where you come from. On behalf of Watson, we want to say thank you, and we give you a cake. Please give him a round of applause.
Yo, this has got to be the dopest thing ever. Bruh. Yo, come on. This is fun. Yo, this is fun. I need to get this out of there. Did you get it? I need you to get this. This is fun. This is amazing. For years, and I've never had this happen. Thank you guys so much. I had a blast.
I have no words about this. I really do. On freaking beautiful. And for every one of you who don't know, Marcus is one of the people who charges up to $10,000 to speak, and he charged us $0 to be here today. His son's basketball tournament also begins tonight, and he missed that to be here with us today. Wow. So, just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Sharing your story. I think each and every one of us, most of us in this room doesn't even know what it feels like to come out of the world that you come out of, to do the things that you've done. So thank you for sharing your life with us. Thank you. We're super grateful. I know, Lily, you had a question. You can join the community table to ask your question. But thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Marcus. We're grateful. Thank you.
Y'all ain't gonna have me up and get all emotional. Y'all ain't. Thank you guys so much. I had a great time. This is awesome. Thank you.